What is consciousness? And what does it mean to truly live life awake? Welcome to Clarity to Consciousness, a podcast where we transcend beyond stereotypes, embracing a deeper understanding. I'm your host, Kristen Griffiths, a fellow seeker on this path. Join me on a journey as we dive into conversations with experts, unraveling stigmas, and expanding our awareness to something profound. This is your invitation to open your mind with me as together we bring clarity to the fascinating complexities of human consciousness. Welcome back to Clarity to Consciousness, the show that seeks to explore and clarify different topics related to the complexities of human consciousness. I'm your host, Kristen Leigh Griffiths, and today we're clarifying manifestation. And I don't mean vision boards or wishful thinking. I'm actually talking about what manifestation actually is at the quantum level and why it so often doesn't seem to work, and what shifts we can make to align with our own natural power to create. Joining me for this expansive conversation is the incredible MaAra Divine, transformational guide, teacher, and author of the powerful new book, Mastering Quantum Creation: Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. In her work, Deanna helps people reconnect with their higher self, activate their inner guidance, and remember who they are at the soul level. She blends spiritual psychology, energy healing, sound, breath, and ancient wisdom to help others move through blocks, awaken their gifts, and step into the full spectrum of embodiment. She's the co-founder of the Source Language Institute, host of the Soul Communication podcast, and leads powerful in-person workshops across New York and New Jersey. Today, she's helping us unpack what manifestation really means through the lens of quantum consciousness. And I'm so excited to have her here. Deanna, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us
Thank you
today.
for having me, Kristen. I'm really excited to be on your show. And as you said, unpack as much as we can. So it is relatable and these concepts can be hard to understand. But yeah, I'm ready to dive right in.
Oh, great. I really appreciate you being here. So, to start us off, can you share a little bit about your personal journey and how did you come into this work of energy healing and quantum creation and remembering who you truly are?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's been a long journey. It's spanning 25 years and more. So it's been a journey of just, I think I've always been an like old soul, as they say, since I was a young child, but I didn't quite understand that this was just me understanding things and having perspectives that others just didn't have. And I think it was really when I was 20 years old. So I grew up in Soviet Union and we moved to Israel. And then I came here to visit my grandparents. I had a lot of journeys kind of even in my teenage years. And my childhood was a nice childhood in Israel, but then there was the environment itself. I went through Gulf War, I went through suicide bombings in my
Oh my
town,
gosh.
and it was all kinds of like situation thrown at a child and a teenager to kind of really open your eyes wide to this concept of death, right? And how
Yeah.
impermanent everything is. And part of that wanted me to leave the area. And when I was here in college, actually, I was studying a lot of peace and conflict resolution in the Middle East. I was always interested into learning from a perspective of the history as well. And I think something about being outsider, like you no longer in the polarization of what's happening in the story in the land and kind of learning it. So that's where I think in my 20s, I really started kind of developing more, I would say, Buddhistic perspective, meaning like having the higher vision. What is exactly happening? Why are people fighting? Why there's wars? And then I went back to Israel, had a situation with the army, and I finally resolved it. And during that time, my mom actually got into Reiki and energy healing. And she's the one who brought me to her energy healer. And I had what's called Reiki initiation for the first level initiation. And then there was a beautiful experience where I got to experience energy. And that opened a whole gamut of curiosity because now it wasn't just all in the mind. I could feel it, right? I wanted to lay my hands on everything, on animals and plants and people. And that took off. Like that journey has been my journey of constant exploration, from shamanism to plant medicine work to psychology to dance. It took me different places around the world. I traveled around the world 3 times, different ceremonies in the
Wow.
jungles, you name it. I've tried them all because
Oh my
for
gosh.
me, only if you experience it, it becomes real. Like I had to experience and experiment myself and then bring it back to others. And this is where I am today. So it's been a journey of remembering, honestly, remembering who I am, remembering that I have very ancient roots that predate Earth, and remembering my past lives and all of these things that started unfolding and expanding and opening channels of informations. If you asked me back in those days that, oh, are you a channeler? Like, can you make these different sounds and galactic languages? I would look at them and be like, no, no way. Like, I had so many limiting beliefs, like everyone does. Like, I cannot do it. I'm not born with this. I'm not a psychic, none of that. And I'm here to tell you we have all of it. We have all those gifts, and it's about opening these channels, these different sensory perceptions. And really, if you can imagine, it is real. And that's where I am today, because I have now traversed these different realms, and things I could not even imagine are still real. So that's kind of been my
Wow.
journey.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh. Well, I what I loved about learning about you was that you've tried so many things, and it actually made it hard to figure out where to narrow this conversation because there's so many things that I want to talk about. And I think the audience that I believe listens to this podcast is one that is sort of starting to just uncover what it really means to step into consciousness, or to become spiritually awakened, to experience some of these things that we talk about that are in the metaphysical or that are quantum, that a lot of people still don't believe in or understand or think is like a trick. I'm so excited to start to break down those barriers with you today. And I think that your book is also a great way to help people to do that. And it's called Mastering Quantum Creation. Creation, I believe, is another way of saying manifestation. And that's why I decided to narrow this topic to manifestation, because I think it's a term that so many people are throwing around like, oh yeah, I manifested that, this, that, and the other thing. But I don't know that people really understand what's happening, what they're doing when they say that. And so I thought maybe you could help us break it down a little bit. And your book, as I mentioned, is called Mastering Quantum Creation. So what inspired you to create this book? And what are you hoping people take away from it?
Yeah, I this is weaving all, as you said, all these different threads into a book. And I have to say it was hard, and it still is not everything that I wanted to put in. I had to cut out, but it's already almost 300 pages, and not everyone reads these days. So in the process, even as I was finishing the book, the Oracle deck came through as a tool
Mm.
to kind of use together with the book separately. Even the cover itself, I worked on a specific symbol with a friend of mine that is really powerful, actually sacred geometry. It's very complex and it's multi-layered. And the reason why is like, if people never even open the book and they just see the cover and that somehow activates something in their field, that's wonderful too. But really, it's about inspiration. It's about empowerment. It's about re-remembering who we are, because I believe we're all creators. And I believe we all have these gifts that I was mentioning. And it's all about stepping outside of those limited beliefs that we've been conditioned since birth, really. This is what you can. This is what society allows you to do. Or, the parents been telling you yes, no to things. And we forgot that when we were children, we were playing. We were babbling in languages. We were really exploring. And I think through time, as we grow up, all of those multisensory abilities shut down. So for me, it's like, how do we come back to who we are? How do we come back to our soul? How do we come back to that innocence and joy and reclaim all of that? So, the subtitle is Awakening the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. It's the reclamation, because we all powerful beings. We just forgot. And that's part of this reality consciousness game we add. It's part of this multidimensional amnesia, as I call it, that specifically on Earth, every time we reincarnate, if you believe in incarnation, we purposely forget what happened previously. So we don't have this like, manual of all the lifetimes I went through and all the lessons that I've learned. And like we come in kind of naked without memories. And I'm here to tell you that actually in other cosmic systems, the other beings do remember everything. It's just us don't remember here. And that's part of this, like, let's learn from the get-go. But then it's hard because, we sometimes repeat the same lessons again and again. So my book was really to lay out the three pieces, which are the three parts: re-remembering, and then expansion and mastery. And when I say re-remembering, not from the mind, because we often tend to jump into the mind, but I don't remember them. We think memory is inside the brain. Actually, memory is very much related to consciousness. They've already done a lot of scientific studies, and we know this also from people who have been brain damaged and yet had this incredible spiritual experiences when there's no way for them to remember because on the biological level their brain was completely shut down. So memory is actually non-local. Let's put it this way. It's actually out there in this field of information. And the word that I'm going to be using a lot is quantum field. And quantum field is essentially field of information. It's unseen, right? So the spectrum of our eyes can only see so much. So it's all this energy that's unseen. And this field of information, imagine like an ocean, right? It has waves and when the waves kind of break apart, they break down to particles. So there's scientific aspect to our mystical, esoteric experiences that now are finally converging. It's not fully there yet, but I'm using all this quantum physics terminology because it helps us to understand what happens. It helps us to understand that when I'm getting on Zoom with you, Kristen, and I'm doing a healing and I'm able to do all this healing and channeling and move your energy and realign your chakras and do all this magical stuff. How can I do that, right? There's distance and time supposedly and separation between
Right.
us. But
Yeah.
no, because according to the scientific now models, and everyone speaks about it, quantum entanglement is real. And what is quantum entanglement? It just means when one particle is here and the other one kind of acts the same way and connects to it, they can simultaneously operate without the time and space. So really time and space is an illusion. We all part of this one ocean of information. And therefore, though we sit in the same room, distance does not matter. So my client can be in Australia, New Zealand, anywhere, it does not matter. And that's kind of the beauty when I experience these energy healings. For me, they're real time. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why quantum entanglement works or other aspects of it. So that's kind of, I try to summarize, and almost it's like every chapter its own part of the puzzle, and you kind of put in the parts together, and some will resonate, some won't. Some information might be over your head. I remember 25, 30 years ago, I picked up some esoteric metaphysical books and I did not understand them. And today
Mhm.
I'm reopening them again. And I'm like, oh, yes, that. Sometimes you have to go through your own inner contemplation, your own journey. And for me, it's about seeding that information. You might not fully comprehend it, but you will get it and just bringing it through my story, my journeys, my client work. I felt like that was one way to make it more relatable than just and sprinkle and sparkle these other quantum terms that might be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for working so hard to keep it relatable. I know when you're in it for a while, sometimes you forget what it's like to have the beginner mind in some of this stuff. So, thanks for that. You write in your book that we're always manifesting. And I heard this quote once that what you worry about all the time is unfortunately what you're manifesting. So you should really concentrate on not worrying and thinking about what you want to happen and what you actually pray for, and have that occupy more of what you're thinking about, which can be tough to do sometimes. But can you explain what you meant by your always manifesting, and how it challenges the way we typically think about manifestation?
Yeah. Well, I also like I use the word manifest your reality in my subtitle, but I actually like the word creation even more because manifestation
Mm,
assumes that you like attracting this thing. But I feel creation is almost like from scratch. We constantly create, and we are creative beings, right? If we just draw or scribble something or create with our hands, that's creation too. So every breath we take in this reality is creation, actually, because we get to experience reality. And this reality is about experiences. And it's almost like imagine this mega super mind computer that is learning through us. So we are constantly uploading and downloading information from this bigger, higher mind. So as we experience in reality, we also create a reality. The choices we make on a daily basis, I can either drive automatically every day, taking the same route, not thinking on autopilot and just go, 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 and like have my morning very disconnected. Or it can be much more conscious. I can take a new route. I can look around. I can notice new cars and new colors of cars that I've never noticed. Oh, there's many white cars. And now, oh, I saw a red car. Oh, look at this person. Like the amount of detail and consciousness we can bring and awareness to the moment is actually creation as well, because that spins a new awareness and that spins. And so sometimes creation is physical, like I was saying, like drawing or sculpting or creating a reel and a piece of content or creating a podcast. Like Kristen, you and I created a lot, like, right? Every
yes,
episode
we do.
is a whole creation process from recording to editing to putting out there to inspiring others to put in a reel. I mean, there's so much creation, right? And some of us just
Mhm.
love a lot of creation, and it's if we want, some people take a longer time and others just want to, especially these days, inspire others, and we create much more and we're pushing ourselves to create more even when we don't want to. And some just kind of lay back, they don't want to create. And so for me, creation is why we're here. That's why we chose this particular, you can call it simulation, can call it something else, but it is a bit of a game. And in this game, there's a really great movie. I don't know if you've ever watched Free Guy. And
Yes, I did see that. Yeah, I saw that one.
yeah, I love that movie. So,
Mhm.
yeah, if you remember the main character, right? He was just like in the Truman Show. He was a character working for the bank and was just things were happening, but he wasn't fully understanding what was going on. And then he found these pair of glasses, he put them on, and all of a sudden he realized, oh wow, he's actually what's called non-character, NPC, non-player.
Mhm.
And then as he put the glasses on, he realized, oh, wow, there's all these conscious players that are coming into the game and they have points and they have to do all these actions and activities. And based on points, other levels open up for them. He was just a non character. So my whole thing is let's not be NPCs and be PCs, conscious players that gain points that, you know, you can go to a store, you can just be in your own little bubble, or you can come in and smile and say hello to the cashier. You can interact with others and spread your light and your high vibration. And in the moment, that's creation too. That's creating a vibrational match to where you are. So you were talking about emotions and where we are in our emotional scale. And we'll go through that, right? That's one of actually the ingredients of the creation formula. That where are you vibrationally? What's your emotion? Because each emotion has a vibrational scale, and some of it,
Mhm.
some emotions like shame and guilt on the low vibrational scale, then love and joy and harmony and peace. And there's actually a beautiful chart by David Hawkins, it's called Map of Consciousness, where he maps out these different emotions and the vibrations of these emotions. So that's what I'm encouraging us to be. Let's display, let's have fun. Let's play this game in the way that fulfills us and we enjoy this. So we thriving in the game and we get our points versus just surviving, because many of us kind of just in this perpetual survival mode and every day waking up and having like a hamster wheel kind of experience. And
Yeah.
and and that might be okay. It might be comfortable until you actually put those glasses on, and then you realize, oh wow, there's so much more to this game, and maybe I can participate more.
I love so many things that you said. Yeah, the word creation is really, I like that one better. It's probably a higher vibrational word, to be honest, because I do
Yeah,
think the way it feels, the intention behind it is really to, almost to make something magical and birth something, versus manifestations almost like I did it by accident. I did it without intention. It just
exactly.
happened to me. So I really like that word choice, and I'm going to be more conscious in using conscious creation versus
Conscious
manifestation.
creation. That's right.
Conscious creation. And I also loved, just a side note, like it's so interesting that there's so many mainstream movies out there that really are nods to spirituality, like what you said, Free Guy, like The Truman Show, The Matrix, these, Inception, of course, is not Inception, Interstellar. I always mix those two up. But
Interstellar,
those
and
movies
many
are,
more. They coming out now,
yeah.
which
Oh, yeah.
is a reflection. Hollywood is almost like self-disclosure. They are a reflection of
Hmm.
also our evolution as conscious beings. And if you look maybe 20 years ago, like we didn't have so many movies on multidimensionality and timelines and parallel realities. Like, and since then, like if you look at Marvel, like the amount of
Yeah.
movies that be like Doctor Strange and many others, like all of them are feeding that same narrative, which is what we're talking about, that we are these multidimensional beings that have so many, you know, so much more than here. Like we have so many aspects of ourselves across space and time, and we can visit each other. And this parallel timelines is so much more in this quantum field of information. We literally just scratching the surface. And I love that they are starting to also do the seeding, right? They're sprinkling that into our consciousness for us to resonate with some of that, because I do believe from my experiences, that's the reality, and from a lot of journeys I've done. So Hollywood is playing along this consciousness
Hmm.
evolution for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so a lot of people, they try to manifest,
Hmm.
but they feel like it's not working.
Hmm.
I know that I've talked to my mom about this, and she's like, whatever, like, this doesn't work. I don't know what you're talking about. I wanted this to happen. It didn't happen. If you're like, oh, I'm going to manifest winning the lottery, or I'm going to manifest $1 million. And then people are like, whatever, that's not going to work. I think that happens a lot to people. And there's probably reasons why it's not happening. Can you help us figure out why that is, why it doesn't work, and what happens when people are blocked from what they are wanting the most?
Yeah. So we started touching upon the emotion component of it, right? So I think all the ingredients of the creation formula need to be there for that specific thing to actually happen. And, they want something, but their, let's say, intention is not clear, and we'll go through these ingredients because then you'll understand. If one of these ingredients is not solidified, then like any formula, the formula doesn't work, right? Because you don't have all the components of how to make creation work. So maybe I can jump into it, so then we'll start making sense.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, like you said, manifestation assumes it's accidental. Nothing is accidental in this universe. There's no such thing as coincidence per se. I think it's more like resonance. We are actually resonating in the certain. Remember the days when we had the radio stations and we had those knobs and we could like
Mhm.
shift between the radios
Tune
and
in.
it tuning,
Yeah,
and there was that static
tuning in.
noise, right? And
Yep,
then when we got to the right one, like in the car, we're like, oh yeah, here's I'm on the channel.
and it's
So
clear.
it's
Yes,
clear.
great example. Love it. Love that
So
example.
that's that broadcasting that we also do. And it's very important to know how to be that type of broadcaster. And the channels and how we tune to the specific frequency channels is what really makes it happen. So, what are those components, right? They're quite simple, but I'll go through them. So, the first one is clear intention. So, you were talking about lottery. What exactly And it has to be, I would say, in the highest alignment as well. And we're talking about creation
Mhm.
for the highest good, not talking about, some
Yeah.
nefarious things, although you
Mhm.
could do that as well. But the intention is for, I don't know, let's say, like you want to manifest a house or create a house, meaning bring that
Mhm.
house into your reality. And so the clear intention has to be there. Like, what type of house is it? In what environment is it in? How I'm going to feel in this house? How spacious it is? Do I want a small house, big house? Do I want it in the suburbs? Do I want an apartment in the city? Like, getting crystal clear about the intention really matters. And the way I like to give a metaphor that your audience likes metaphors, and most of people like metaphors because it's really easier to understand. So I use Diana, the goddess of hunting, and that's my name. If anyone's familiar, she's a representation in Roman and Greek mythology of hunting. So she would go
Mm.
hunting in the forest. So imagine that bow and arrow, you are that goddess, are your creation tools. So to go, I've never gone hunting, but I'm imagining, right? You have to have very good arrow. And then you know how like there is the tip of the arrow? That's intention. That means concentrated, because there's everything is energy. There's so many things we can create. All the potentialities exist in the field, but we have to concentrate it down to maybe a word or a sentence, not paragraphs. I want a house and a couple of qualities of how this house looks like, and you put it into the tip of the arrow. That's that's what we're going to release to the quantum field. And then for hunting, you have to be in specific state on what's called coherent field. If you're chaotic and you're moving around, the animal out there is going to hear you, right? So you have to be very solid in your field. When I
Mhm.
say solid and coherent field, I talk a lot about it in the book. That means your heart variability is, you know, is beaten in a way that is more in coherent rhythms. Because when, for instance, we'll go into the emotions part, because emotions are a big part of this. When you're in frustration, the heart variability is very erratic. But when
Mhm.
you are in the higher emotions, in peace and joy, then they're much more stable. And when your heart is stable, your brain also drops in brain waves from very to what's called alpha state, where you're still very focused, but it kind of comes down. It's like between dream space, like when you're watching a movie, you're very focused, but you're
Mhm.
kind of a bit relaxed, right? When you close your eyes, you kind of drop a little down from your guarded state. And so when you're in that coherent field, of your brain and the heart, there's a coherence, and your emotional state is also still has energy in it, but it's not erratic, it's not in frustration, it's not chaotic, it's stable. Then I would imagine a hunter, right? They would release the arrow with their bow into this quantum field of information, but from that state, remembering their intention and what they're releasing.
Mhm.
And as they release that into the field, this is the other very important component of it. You have to surrender. And when I say surrender, it means not to control the outcome. Detach from how exactly this error is going to come back to you, or how exactly it's going to catch its prey, so to speak, in the field of information, because there's so many potentialities. You essentially releasing that into the field, and you allow in the field to co-create with you. So it's a co-creation process. This other energy will move this air around and will figure out how it will show up in your life in the best alignment for you. But if you're trying to control and put too many parameters on it, then you limit it on how it can manifest or create itself, right? Because it's a co-creation process. So surrender is really important part of it. And also you have to continue fueling that intention, meaning, let's say I want a house, right? So I'm like, okay, I want a house. I did my intention setting. I released my arrow. Wonderful. And then I forgot about it. So in the quantum field of information, if you just forget about it, you don't give it enough fuel for it to create itself. So remember back to the ocean of the waves. Let's say I'm waking up every morning and I'm continuing to visualize this beautiful house and how I feel there. I have pictures and vision boards in front of me, and I keep on looking at them, and I keep on your attention and intention. It's what gives fuel for it to continue working itself out in the field of information. So I continue feeling like, oh, I'm already in this house and I'm cooking in the kitchen and my husband is watching TV and everyone is happy. So I'm kind of continuing living as though this reality of the field is already happening because it's already created. We co-created, right? So that's, I guess, where you switch in the radio into that frequency of what is, which is that different bandwidth where you
Mhm.
have that particular thing that you wanted to create. So those are the components, really. And so people forget, they're like, oh, I want a lottery. They don't set
Yeah.
intention. They do it from erotic state. They
Right.
don't they put too many thoughts in, and they kind of also release it with like, oh, it's going to happen like this, like this, like this, and then also completely forget about it, so they're not fueling
Mhm.
the intention and attention to it, and then it doesn't happen, and they're upset, and they're like, oh, well, manifestation didn't work, I'm a bad manifester. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, did you really do it? Did you consciously create, or you were just assuming it's just going to come, on a silver platter? So that's the process.
Yeah. Okay. That makes so much sense. I loved your bow and arrow analogy because that was perfect. So I think a lot of what I'm hearing is a lot of what people do is like they'll, if they want to win the lottery, they forget to think about the reason they want to win the lottery, and it's typically it's so that they have more money, so that they can have more freedom. So they should hold on to the feeling of freedom, not I want more money for the sake of having money. It's what you're going to do with the money. It's the way you're going to feel, which is free, not stressed when you have more income to play with. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention that you had talked about was the focus afterwards, because I think if people are assuming that it's not going to work, the energy that they're putting out afterwards is the energy of it. This isn't going to really happen. So what, and then that's what's fueling the manifestation or the creation. And
Correct. The
so what
trust,
you,
the trust in the process.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the
Mhm.
trust and full faith that it is already happening is super important here, because like you said, if you don't have that, that's kind of part of the surrender as well. If you don't, it's kind of embedded in the surrender in some ways, but you have to have the
Mhm.
trust, because if you lose that focus and you lose the trust and the faith this is occurring, then there's nothing on the other side to kind of hold that frequency with you. So again, the momentum gets lost. So that's why I was saying fueling it every day, because you continue reiterating the trust in the creation, and again, the surrender of knowing that it's already happening. So yeah, that is very important, because otherwise it's just kind of like, I threw my arrow in, and maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. The
Mhm.
doubt itself is basically
Mhm.
telling the field it won't, then it
Right.
won't, and then it won't, and then you shouldn't be surprised, versus being
Yeah.
very solid in like it's already here.
Hmm. So, for anybody who's listening, I would love people to take these steps. Well, first of all, I want everybody to get your book so that they can utilize it to work through these steps. And if you create something, please let us know. I would love to hear from everybody who's listening, who's created something, what they created, utilizing the steps that Deanna talked about today. And once you get it, Deanna, when you get what you had intended or when you get what you were hoping to create, what's the first thing you should do when you get it?
I think you should celebrate.
Celebrate,
Celebrate for sure.
yeah.
I think all of these practices, and that's just not about creation, but being on the journey of consciousness, is taking the moment to honor your journey. Every time, it's like going to the gym, and we lift weights, right? And we build muscles. But similarly, this is kind of going to a spiritual gym. Every time we able to create, or we able to achieve a certain state of consciousness, our spiritual bicep got much stronger. And you have to honor that, you have to celebrate that, because now it's making you stronger, more resilient, better creator as a whole, because now you like experience it. And I really believe in experience, because if you experience it, then it becomes real. So it's no longer just talk, it's no longer a chapter in the book, it's no longer just, a conceptual thing, it's a real thing. And honestly, this is how I created my reality. I was working specifically on a relationship, and I wanted to meet the right person. And that's how I met my husband, because I used this formula. I don't talk in a book about it, but I wanted to share. Like, I've used this formula to meet the love of my life. I've used this formula to find my jobs, and I've used this formula through my lifetime. And I know it works. And sometimes it doesn't. And then I catch myself when it doesn't, because I have missed a step, or I haven't been solid enough in my specific frequency band within my radio station tuning. And that's where it kind of skipped. So, but if I was consistent, and if I did all these pieces, I know that. And I loved how you brought the trust, because it reminded me
Mhm.
back in the day when I was hunting for the right relationship. I was a single mom in New York City, and everyone was telling me, oh my God, there's no way you can find the right man for you, because it does not exist in New York City. So there's always people around you that test you. I'm just going to put it out there. They're going to always create doubts in your mind of how you cannot do it. And the key here is to continue training your spiritual muscle, because you can do it. And I can tell you, I did not pay attention to them, and I had full trust. And I was like, I know it's going to happen. I don't have a timeline for it. I'm just completely surrendering and detaching, but I know the outcome is going to happen. And it happened within a month and a half. This is how quickly the co-creation happens when you're ready for it. That's another component, right? You got to be ready to receive what you're asking for, because you're not ready for it. That's also creating blockages and resistances in your field. And then it's just like bounces back. It's like, well, she doesn't really want it. Does she really want it or not?
Right. So, so good. Thank you so much for those reminders. Well, I know that we have to end our conversation soon, so I'd love to make sure that I ask you the questions that I ask all my guests. The first is, reflecting on our conversation today, what is one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember about consciousness and the work that you do?
I want you to be conscious in choices you make on a daily basis. And it can start with something as simple as your breath. So start paying attention to how you breathe in. Are you breathing shallowly just into your lungs, or are you breathing all the way into your belly? So even now, just take a deep breath in and breathe all the way into your belly, because actually creation happens in the solar plexus, which is our third chakra. It's in our belly. So the more space we can create in our belly, the more activation kind of naturally happens. Start just paying attention to how you breathe in through the day. When is your breath shallow? Is that when you're nervous? Is that when you're frustrated? And how can you catch yourself when that situation comes up? So instead of reacting to it, maybe take a moment, pause, take a deep breath, and then breathe into your belly. And then from that place, now you're not reacting anymore, you're responding to life. It's very, very simple exercise, but that exercise alone is going to allow you to slow down. So all that consciousness conversation we having, it's because we're so fast in our daily life, running around, going, doing. We don't allow the space for these deeper contemplations and deeper work to happen. So just allow that space within yourself through just breath work alone. Just notice how you breathe in, and that will open your awareness to notice other things. Create these pauses, these spaces, and the more pauses and spaces you create, the more contemplation moments will happen. Consciousness evolves through the art of contemplation. And when I say contemplation, that means like not just looking at something or thinking about it, but actually contemplation is almost like a spherical process. It's like you think about this from this perspective, from that perspective, from this perspective, like that same situation that might have in that moment really triggered you. That's why you wanted to react. Then when you take that pause, you're like, how can I maybe respond differently? Maybe those triggers meant to show me something about myself. And maybe there's something that I need to look deeper at. And where is this coming from? And always trying to see the best in people. So being compassionate. And I feel when we create space, we bring more compassion into the moment because we're not like so reactive, even when someone hurt us or something happened that didn't align with us in the moment. So that's what I want to leave your audience with.
Thank you for that. My next question is if someone's just starting on their journey towards a deeper understanding of consciousness, what advice or guidance would you give them?
Yeah, be gentle with yourself. And I think people assume enlightenment is like, I don't know, a marathon and with a destination. And I'm here to tell you it's not about the destination at all. It's about the journey itself. So slowing down in your journey, being gentle, taking care of yourself, being okay not to know things. And actually, I would say after so many years of learning so many things, I'm actually realizing I don't know anything. Like there's just constantly more rabbit holes to uncover
Mhm.
and to be okay with that. That there's just so many perspectives on the reality and so many half truths, I would say. And we're learning to just hold all of that, the light and the darkness. And we all here to integrate. That's really I believe the whole game here is integration, is learning all these things and then embodying them and integrate them into our present moment. That's really all that matters. Because if we don't live it in a moment, like breath, right? If we don't live it in a moment, if we don't integrate it into our daily life and situations, then none of this really is important. We're here to continue training our muscles and evolve in each situation, in each moment we experience, and how we can see, we can go into the forest and just be like, it's a forest. Or we can go into the forest and be like, oh, look at the beauty, look at the sun, look at the trees, look at the leaves and the moss, and just start noticing the details and appreciate and being so grateful for each little thing. And so, yeah, find those little details in your life, wherever you are in your journey, whether you start in or you way in. I think that never stops.
Last question. In your opinion, what does it mean to live life consciously?
I think I just literally said that, like just being
Yeah.
really, really present with the now. Because again, time, we perceive it linearly, but time is actually an illusion. It's very multidimensional. But for the sake of this game, this is how we perceive it. That so sometimes we live in the past. We always think about the past things and like, ruminate about the past. And that creates depression because we always live in the past, or we always live in the future. What if, what if, what if? And that creates anxiety. And many of us out there filled with anxieties, right? We're trying to control it. We're trying to figure out how this future is going to be. And again, it changes every moment. And part of us created that, right? We also created the change. So, but when you live in the moment of the now, that's when all the magic happens. And so continue living in the moment of the now, because you can't control the past or the future. You can only be in here. And so stay in the heart, be open, be curious. Curiosity is what I believe leads you everywhere you need to go.
I love so much everything you said. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I really appreciate you being here, your wisdom, your clarity, and helping us understand creation, reframe what is really means to create from a place of truth and alignment. For everybody listening, I really hope that you'll get Deanna's book.
Right now, yeah, on the pre-order, the ebook is $1.11. It will go up in next week, but the book itself is coming out on June 17th. So in a couple of weeks, I don't know if this podcast is going to come out before, but you can get the book if you go to dianadivine.com/book, or Diana, it's spelled Diana. And yeah, it will be from June 17th on, it will be available for paperbacks. And if you go on my website, the Oracle deck is available as well. So I feel all those tools are there. Do we have any time to open a card maybe to finish it off, Kristen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have my deck.
I would love that. Please, please
Yeah,
do.
like
Please, please
what
do.
is
Thank
that
you.
final message for our audience, right? And let's open up. Oh, I love it. It's perfect. So the womb of Nan, the 0 point of creation. So remembering, I'm
I've
gonna
got
read this.
chills. I've got
Before form,
chills.
there is formless. From void, all possibilities emerge. Return to the sacred space of creation. So it's like returning back to the womb of the mother, the divine mother, and remembering that we always in the womb. And yeah, how perfect, right?
Ugh, I mean, how perfect. How perfect is that? It's, oh my gosh. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I had so much fun with you. You
Yeah,
have so much to offer. Will you come back
of
again and teach us something
course.
new?
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come back. I would love that. Yes, there's so much we
Thank you
can
so
cover.
much. Thank you so much. And for everybody listening too, you can meet Diana. You can sign up for one-on-ones. You can take some of her classes. She's got a lot of offerings.
And I
Please
also
check out
have
her
a
website
podcast, Soul Communication
and a
Podcast.
podcast.
Yeah, so you can, if you're ready to go a little deeper into some rabbit holes, yeah, I have some really great guests, over 50 episodes now on my podcast. So you're welcome to
Congratulations.
listen.
That's awesome. We'll link all of that information below. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, keep seeking clarity in the beautiful complexity of human consciousness. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.